Good evening. This is Terry Allen, Radical Progressive. It is Monday night, November 16th, 2020. Today is a very interesting day because one of Trump's attorneys is Sydney Powell, and she was on a couple of talk shows this weekend, and the bomb has dropped. The voter fraud has blown wide open, and now we know what's going on, and now we see where the massive vote fraud came from. It's very interesting because the names you've heard of, George Soros and some of these other scumbags, you're going to see how this all ties together. We've got the company that makes the voter machines is called Dominion, and the software that was written for these machines is written by a company called Smartmatic. Now, the president of this corporation, and let me get his name right here, is retired Admiral Peter Neffenger, and he is a well-known Trump hater. And interestingly enough, now he is actually on the transition team for Joe Biden. It's a conflict of interest, I think. And the other connection that we have, the CEO is Lord Mark Malloch Brown. So we've got the British involved. Very interesting. He is good friends with George Soros. There you go. Now we see where all these pieces are starting to fit together. These guys are part of what's called the Atlantic Council, and which this is a to push NATO into encircling Russia and moving NATO into Southeast Asia to basically encircle China and threaten China. That's what they're doing here. And then you've also got the Global Agenda Council, which is another group that has George Soros on, and it's another globalist movement with the economy and the military-industrial complex, the CIA, the deep state. It's all fitting together. All the pieces are coming together. So now we are looking at millions of votes that were flipped by this software. They are investigating the software, and they have discovered, because of some whistleblowers, that this software has actually been used in some other countries to flip votes to certain candidates. Very interesting. It was known also that any of the states that are using this software, there has been kickbacks. So there's corruption involved as well. Anybody that puts in the software in their election, we're getting kickbacks from the company. So this is entrenched. This is corruption, deep. It runs deep, and it needs to be rooted out. It needs to be destroyed. The Democratic Party is sucked into this mess, this nightmare, and pushing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on us. And as I said before, I didn't vote for either one of these two clowns, Biden or Trump. But what I'm seeing now with what's going on, because of the deep state and Wall Street and the military-industrial complex, loving and supporting and piling money onto Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's campaign, that is a huge red flag, a huge danger. That is the enemy. That's the 1%. That is who is our enemy. So we need to run 180 degrees away from this situation. We cannot allow Biden to get into the presidency. Trump has done some crazy, crappy things. I don't like his policies, but he has not started any new wars. He has the crushing sanctions against Venezuela and against Iran. But he has resisted going to war with Iran. Now, what he just did was he fired Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense, and that's an interesting thing because he put in Christopher Miller, and Christopher Miller is actually known to be someone that has been trying and advocating to get our troops out of the Middle East, bring the troops back home, get out of these endless wars. So that is very interesting. That is a very interesting development. We've also got a situation where it looks like Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, and Gina Haspel, head of the CIA, may both be fired. So it looks like Trump is finally going after the deep state, finally rooting out some of this scum, what he was talking about, draining the swamp. Well, finally, he's starting to drain the swamp. Well, it was a little almost too late. But he is going to fight this thing, this voter fraud. As I've said before, I've been a Democrat all my life until 2016 when the Democratic Party cheated Bernie Sanders. And now in 2020, they did the same thing with another software company called Shadow that wrote the election software for Iowa. And those votes were flipped from Bernie Sanders to Pete Buttigieg. So now you see the trend. Now you see the corruption. Now you see what's going on. We have got to root this out. We cannot allow Biden in the presidency because he has people on his transition team that want to push NATO all the way around Russia and China. We don't need NATO anymore. Europe doesn't care about NATO anymore. Russia is not a threat in the way that the Democratic Party has been basically red baiting and showing or trying to show that Russia has been interfering in our elections and all these horrible things. Putin, you're giving way too much credit to Russia and Putin. Their military budget is only $65 billion a year. Compared to the United States, it's almost $1 trillion a year. Actually, when you look at the money that's going under the table, it will be more than $1 trillion a year. So the American empire is on the brink of collapse. This voter fraud operation is going to explode. NewsMax picked it up. LaRouche Pac picked it up. We need to get this message out to as many people as possible. Subscribe to my videos and click the like button if you like. Leave a comment. But things are rapidly developing. And yesterday, I was very discouraged and worried that we were in for World War III. But there's light at the end of the tunnel finally. So we need to get this information to Jimmy Dore and to Kyle Kulinski, Kim Iverson, to RT. They probably know it already. You've got Crystal and Sagar on Rising, which is part of The Hill. You've got Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper on Rolling Stone's Useful Idiots. I don't expect TYT to do anything with this. They are going to go on the way of MSNBC. It looks like they are falling by the wayside, and they're not going to cover this. I can see it. I'm very disappointed in TYT. So anyway, that's where we're at. Let's see what happens tomorrow, but this is a very, very good development. This corruption has got to end. We have got to take on the 1%. We have got to take these people down. Okay? So have a good night. This is Terry Allen, Radical Progressive, and let's see what happens tomorrow. All right? Take care.